Briefing with Steve Scully on POTUS, SiriusXM Channel 124, and anytime on the SiriusXM app.
We are pleased to welcome in studio Maryna Baydyuk, who is with the President and Executive Director of United Help Ukraine. Maryna, thank you very much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
Let me talk about where this ceasefire proposal is at the moment, because it seems like we're making some progress. President Zelensky, who you met with when he was in Washington just a short while ago, and we'll get to that in just a moment, talking about where things go. And now it seems as if the ball is in Vladimir Putin's court. Here is, through a translator, President Zelensky.
Frankly speaking, I do support the meeting and the results we had yesterday with our teams. I can clearly tell you, I always try doing this. I always try talking very discreetly to you. I think this is the first big constructive discussion between our teams. I'd like to thank the American side, the Ukrainian team, for this to happen, this multi-hour meeting. It was a rather detailed one. It is very important for us to be heard.
And so clearly the devil will be in the details. But from your standpoint, where are we? Where are these negotiations? What's next?
So it was really great to see that yesterday there was some progress made between Ukrainian side and the U.S. compared to what happened on February 28th when President Zelensky came with the visit to the White House. However, when I met with President Zelensky right after the visit to the White House, he was very composed, he was positive and optimistic, and he was looking forward to the next steps. And as we saw yesterday, those steps took place, and progress was made. I was very happy to see personally, and I know a lot of Ukrainians were really happy to see that military aid to Ukraine was restored. Number two, that intelligence sharing was restored as well. Those are two main components that really help the front lines to sustain the level of activities that Russians are really pushing right now. We all know they're trying to get as much of the territory as possible. And also, this is the front lines. But what we also see is Russia is intensifying attacks on civilians. So the first steps that took place yesterday are very positive. We're very, and I'm sure they're welcomed not only by the U.S. side, but definitely more by Ukrainian side, including Ukrainian people. Again, unfortunately, Russia will not take this peace deal lightly. There's going to be more negotiations, and we do hope, and you can see that Ukraine was really moving forward with saying, we are ready. We are ready to make a peace deal. We are ready for a 30-day ceasefire. Now the ball, like you said, is in Russia's court.
I don't want to relitigate the past, but I do have to ask you about that Oval Office exchange, because it did send shockwaves around the world. I have covered the White House for many, many years. I have never seen a dust-up like that in the Oval Office. You saw the Ukrainian leader, President Zelensky, just hours after all of that happened. What was your reaction, and did he tell you anything about that moment?
So there was a planned meeting, so it was scheduled for President Zelensky to meet with leaders of Ukrainian community, such as myself. I'm the president of United Help Ukraine. It's one of the largest Ukrainian diaspora organizations. And when we saw what happened in the White House, we actually didn't think he would make it to the meeting later with us. But then we were instructed that the meeting will take place. We were there. When President Zelensky walked into the room, we could feel a positive energy. We could see that he was optimistic and determined that, yes, this is, again, a working moment. And he was very open with us. And again, this meeting was off record, but I can tell you that he was ready for next steps.
We are talking to Maryna Baydyuk, and she is here in our studios. Thank you very much for stopping by. Tell us about your organization. What's the mission? What are you doing?
So United Help Ukraine was established in 2014 when Russia annexed Ukraine and when the war started. We were a small local organization. However, in 2022, when Russia started full-scale invasion, we grew up significantly. So in the past 10 years, we were able to deploy over $75 million in aid. And that includes humanitarian aid. We're working with Ukrainian communities to provide seeds, agricultural equipment, filtration systems for water. One of the humanitarian disasters in Ukraine, as many people know, happened in 2023 when Russia bombed a big dam, Kakhovka Dam, and that left a lot of people in that region without clean drinking water. We help medical establishments such as rehabilitation centers. We help over 200 hospitals in Ukraine, providing necessary equipment, supplies, but also importantly training. One of the things that our organization is focusing now is sustainability and capacity building. So we're helping people, and again, because of so many professionals left the country, a lot of immigrants, as we know, more than 3 million people left Ukraine in 2022, some came back. But what's important is to give people resources and give people knowledge that they can really work more efficiently in the environment that they have now. And we provided mass casualty training to medical professionals. So that's all within medical aid. We also help defenders. We have 2 tactical medicine schools that train up to 1,000 people, including highly qualified combat medics, to use first aid kits to help people on the battlefield. So we pretty much cover the entire humanitarian sector in Ukraine, and people in Ukraine know who we are. They really appreciate our help. And what's important is 94 cents of each dollar goes to programming in Ukraine. We operate on very minimum administrative expenses. We have logistics hubs in Germany, Dusseldorf. We have large logistics hub in Ukraine. And then how we operate is it's because of American people. We actually don't rely on federal grants. We actually have never received a federal grant. And of course, we are sorry to see U.S. aid right now completely dismantled and pretty much gone, with humanitarian aid to Ukraine being stopped. Our organization, United Help Ukraine, as others Ukrainian diaspora organizations, are stepping up to fill that gap. And that's going to be crucial because people in Ukraine, and we talk to them every day, psychological aid has been stopped. Mm-hmm. Energy resources and push for renewable energy, those are the things that have been stopped. We are stepping up, and because of American people, and we always say we're grateful. And when I heard the comment from President Trump that, that President Zelensky or Ukrainian people, of course, as he represents Ukrainian people, are not grateful, I will tell you that every time I go to Ukraine, Ukrainians say 2 things. Number one, we're grateful. Thank you. Please tell American people that we are grateful for all the support we've received. And number 2, they always say continue to support. Without your support, we would not survive. So those are main things that I just want to say, that we're grateful. And then President Zelensky, right after the White House visit, his first message on social media was, we are grateful.
So let's talk about what's next. But you mentioned Crimea 2014, a lot of second guessing on how the Obama White House responded or did not respond. What's going to happen to Crimea?
This is a very hard question. And I think this is the question that Ukrainian officials are thinking about. And this is the question of geopolitical influence in the region. Mm-hmm. Historically, Crimea was populated by Tatars, right? Crimean Tatars. That's an indigenous population. And Crimea was part of Ottoman Empire, Russian Empire, and then it was part of Ukraine. And majority of people who were in Crimea at the time of Ukraine proclaiming independence, they voted to be part of Ukraine. They had a choice, and they made that choice back in 1991. So now, because of Russian propaganda, because of quick takeover, the entire peninsula, if you look at the map, it's a huge chunk of Ukrainian territory. Now, 10 years later, unfortunately, propaganda works, and people are absolutely brainwashed. Those who want to still be with Ukraine, we know that there's a lot of unfortunately, kidnapping, torture of activists who are pro-Ukrainian, who are pro-Crimea, a lot of Tatars that were put in jail because of their origin. And for Crimea, and we actually we know several organizations here in DC area that are supporting, and they're supporting Crimea as part of Ukraine. If you think about what's going to happen next, it's a big question mark, and it's also going to be part of the peace deal where that ceasefire is going to take place. And also, in terms of the peace deal, what are we expecting from Russia? Are they ready to give the territory? Even if we go back to the borders of 2022, that's a big accomplishment. Is that going to happen? I honestly don't know. And I don't believe that Russia is ready to negotiate and to even go further, before going further, to even agree to a 30-day ceasefire. We haven't seen that yet. So how that ceasefire is going to take place, it's a question mark. And from what we see Russia's doing is very far from making a peace deal right now.
Do you have family still in Ukraine?
Yes, I have my family in Ukraine. My father and my sister are still in Kyiv. I talk to them daily, and let me tell you, not just my family, my friends, my colleagues, of course, and our people who work for United Help Ukraine. And we received so many messages when people heard that military aid was stopped, when intelligence was stopped. Tons of messages saying what is going to happen. People who, from my high school, who I haven't talked to in so many years, would text me and say, I'm sorry I'm texting you out of the blue, but we're so concerned here. We don't know what's happening. We're all panicking. We have high anxiety. And I felt much better last night knowing that at least military aid is restored, intelligence is back in place, and at least Ukraine has eyes to see what's coming, right? And I was in Ukraine back in last year, March 2024, and before that I was in December of 2022. When I was in March, this is the time when the supplemental aid has not passed the Congress yet. And people were waiting. It was $60+ billion on the table that was in limbo. And I remember the feeling of anxiety of so many who talked to me asking what's going to happen next. Are we abandoned by the U.S.? Is that aid never going to come? And unfortunately, we could see that it did go through. Everyone was really excited about that aid. In 2022, there's no power, maybe just for a couple of hours a day. It was December 2022. People were scared, but they were optimistic. And every time that U.S. has this kind of fluctuating idea of should we provide that aid? Should we stop that aid? This is when people in Ukraine feel it. Mm-hmm. And Russians, Russia feels it too. And they intensify the attacks. They think, okay, maybe without U.S. support, Ukraine will surrender. That's not going to be the case, I can tell you, because that's the question I've been asked back in 2022, when everyone believed that Ukraine will be taken by Russia in 3 days, couple of weeks. Never happened. Ukrainian people are resilient, they're brave, and now they're determined more than ever to fight for their freedom, for their democracy. Those are American values. And so what we see is American people, after what happened on February 28th, and also seeing that the U.S. might turn its back on on Ukraine, guess what people started doing? Donating, supporting, sending us tons of messages saying, we Americans support Ukraine. And this is something that really is so lifting, so inspiring, that ordinary people see what's happening, and they support organizations like United Help Ukraine that they trust, organizations that they know support Ukrainian people with majority of the money, or as I said, 94 cents of each dollar going to Ukraine in programming. So with this, it's very important to establish that the U.S. government might go left or right, might think about suspending the aid or moving forward with the aid. But we know that American people do want Ukraine as an ally, and they want to continue supporting Ukrainians' fight for freedom, democracy, and sovereign borders.
And we wish you, your family, the work you're doing, all the very best. The organization is called United Help America. We are talking to the President, Executive Director, Maryna Baydyuk. Thank you very much for stopping by. Please come back again. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve. It was a pleasure to be here.